Hi everyone, my name is Razak. I'm doing another behind the scenes. We've got one of the judges on Property Graduate 2023, Kirsty here, and she's going to be giving us a bit of insight into what she's been up to and how she's found the Property Graduate. So, hi Kirsty.
Hi Zee.
Thank you for doing this behind the scenes for us.
That's all right.
What we want to talk about initially is because you've got quite a bit of a remarkable journey getting here, because you help many entrepreneurs like myself on the commercial property side, right? So tell us a bit about how you do it.
Well, I'm a commercial property surveyor by trade, so I've been doing that for 25 years, investing for myself for the last 7, and more people started asking me, how can I get into commercial? So I decided to help them on that journey with information, with support, with access to deals, and so that's what I do now.
How have you found, because the biggest question everyone, including me, who are looking for commercial property deals, how do you help people get commercial property deals? What's the biggest thing you do to help them?
I help them connect with commercial agents. So commercial agents are everything in terms of finding property deals. Over 50% of commercial property never ever hits the market. It's all traded between agents and investors. So it really is who you know. And if you haven't got the right relationships, you won't pick up the best deals.
Do you know what? That is so key. Do you do it across the UK, or is there certain areas where you...
So I focus on the East and West Midlands, but I support investors across the UK, so all the way from Scotland, right down to the South Coast, across to Wales, across to Norwich, you know.
A lot of the South East?
I have a lot of South East investors. Some choose to start investing further north to make their capital go further, but there's plenty of deals to be found down south as well.
We will definitely be in contact on those. Can you tell us some of your deals that you've done recently? What's your favourite deal that you've done on commercial property recently?
Our favourite deals at the moment are keeping them totally commercial. So the one that we're currently in is a commercial development project. So it was a showroom, warehouse and offices, all one building, and we've split it up into 5 separate units: office, warehouse, workshop and offices. And the rent has gone from 23,000 a year as a whole unit to 55,000 a year we can get out of that in 5 separate units.
Wow.
25 to 30% profit on capital development. So
Wow.
yeah, we like that project. That's a good project around the corner from us.
What was the GDV of the project when you started?
When we started, the GDV is about 610.
610. And how much did you do the purchase?
We bought it for just below 300, I think.
Wow.
And we haven't got much to spend because commercial development, less is more. So you do the least amount possible because your tenants are going to come in and fit it out. They're going to rip out what you've done and put in what they want, so you don't put anything in the first place.
It's almost a 10% return, isn't it? You said 55 and 60, 600. These are quite hard to get off, especially down south. Oh my God, you're looking much lower returns. And I think that's the biggest challenge people are finding, especially as the interest rates are rising. They're finding it even harder now to make the numbers stack up.
Yeah, I mean, you will struggle if you're going for mixed use because the residential capital values get built in to the price in the south, whereas that doesn't happen in the Midlands and the north because the resi values are a lot lower. So you want to be going for pure commercial. So you want to look at industrial, you want to look at office, you want to look at high street. High street is the land of opportunity as long as you pick the right high street, and that's what I help people understand.
I think obviously your charts are there, right? So that's going to give a lot of insight. So how well have you done on your structuring companies and things like this? Have you used all the different structures, group structures?
No, we haven't really needed to use all the structures yet, and we like to keep things as simple as possible. So we keep things very, very simple. We don't do SPVs, we don't do complicated structures because we don't need to. We are, obviously, as we're making more profits and we're scaling, we are having to consult tax accountants more often and say, what should we do about this? How should we do this? So it's an evolving piece, isn't it?
It is. There's so much to it, and people don't realise. We were speaking to a planning consultant today as well. There's so many parts of the journey, isn't there? And it's trying to get a good power team, and that's, I think, the key. And I think the example that Kirsty's given shows you the value of knowing the right people and the knowledge of actually doing it. So now we've got to get on to the fun of what we do know the last few weeks of Property Graduate. How have you found it?
Yeah, it's been fun. It's been a very interesting process just to see how people cope under stress, what people bring, and all the different approaches. You know, some not quite ready, some more experienced, some crumbling under pressure, some dealing well with pressure. And it's just been an interesting experience with John as well. Of course, he's a character, isn't he?
Gotta
and
love
Fiona.
it. Absolutely, and do you know what? It's been really good to get what, from my perspective, and I've seen Kirsty, Fiona, and John, how they look at things. And that's the key, because more people's view you can understand, the better you're going to be able to get investment, if that is what you want to look at, or be able to analyse a deal differently, because we all seem have a different way of how we analyse a deal, right? And there's different things we'll find, oh, they're going to be strong on, and so other things will be like, oh, we're not sure other people are strong. So Kirsty, you obviously know all the planning stuff inside out, right? And that's quite an important strength, because a lot of people don't realise that's where you get a lot of gains, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. All the requirement not to need planning. So a lot of the commercial development we do, people say, oh, you must have need planning permission. No, because we're keeping it the same use class. As I said, I'm a very simple person, like to keep things simple.
Do you know what? We've got to thank Kirsty for this behind the scenes, and we're going to see more of this content. So thank you, and hope you enjoyed the content with Kirsty Darkins and Z. Hi everyone, my name is Razak with the legendary Fiona, one of the judges on Property Graduate. We're on the scene. We take a little gap to do behind the content stuff, right? And Fiona, very successful property entrepreneur. Fiona, what's some of the big deals that you're working on? Because the LinkedIn and social media audience love hearing this.
Well, thank you for saying that. I just get into it because I love dealing with property at the coalface.
Yeah.
So I've got various projects on the go at the moment. Actually, I think roughly about 5 or 6 currently. And actually, we've had a very busy pandemic, because obviously there's so many opportunities that came out of the pandemic for what I do, which is asset buying.
Wow.
And so, just thinking about some of the things I'm doing, I've got a nightclub which I've just had planning conversion to 5 commercial units, a CMO, commercial multiple occupancy.
We love it, we love those.
Yeah, that'll be a cafe, and then 4 Class C units behind. So
You did it all under PD?
No.
Was it over the square footage, 1,500?
No, it was, it's a nightclub, it's a sui generis.
Sui generis.
Yeah, PD wasn't available. But actually, we had really straightforward experience with planning. I thought that was going to be a tough one, and that one turned out to be a lot easier. Nobody objected. Has been empty for 3 years due to the pandemic.
Right.
I owned it for probably about 9 years now. I used to be the operator. I didn't operate it myself. I ran it as a nightclub for a bit of trading income on the side, and then it closed in the pandemic, and it just wasn't. A lot of people aren't going out anymore, so we decided we'd retain the bar in the front. So we did that. That didn't require planning because it was the same use class, and then we just got the PD. We got the planning on the rear, and we're lucky enough to own the neighbouring property because we had to take a little bit of that land for part of
just to
our
clarify,
scheme.
you're doing investment and hold.
Yeah.
And we'll develop it and change
Buy,
it.
hold, optimise and hold.
Love
Assemble and hold is one of my key things at the moment as
Wow.
well. So I've also went into pre-app on an apart hotel scheme. So I bought a commercial building 2 years ago in the city centre where I'm operating, and then it had some derelict rear parts, and then I bought a parcel of land off Ely Cathedral Diocese where I'm located. So thereby assembling site assembly. And we went in to do a 22-unit apart hotel scheme. Unfortunately, it wasn't well received by the council, so we're now repurposing that to an 8-flat C3 scheme. I'll be walking distance to the river. It's going to be a great scheme. So that one will be going into planning in April. And then I had an officer.
Just on that one, because you're whizzing through these great deals. This is unbelievable info, great value. Don't normally get this, by the way. This is box office stuff. She's done a commercial resi. That's what she's done ultimately with that deal, haven't you? Because you're converting it from a commercial premises, because you said
the front of that. So the existing footprint commercial is a shop which we had to renovate. It had been in the same family since 1958.
Wow.
So I was the first registration on land registry, which was interesting. And then it has residential uppers, which we've let out. We've let the shop to a Chinese sort of herbalist for a 7-year lease, 3-year break. Yeah, and then it has some derelict rear parts, which wasn't included in the price because often with commercial units, the agents charge for what you can earn revenue from. So I got quite a good price for that, and then I bought the land to the rear of that also, and it's a through and through site, so it's on a main street, goes all the way through to a car park to the back of it.
Footfall?
Yeah, not too bad, and the car park is the biggest car park in the city centre, so that's going to be quite good. Hoping for quite a positive planning on that now that we've sort of worked out what we're going to do with the pre-app.
People love numbers. Fine, Pepin, what's the GDV on this?
I would say it's, being conservative, it's probably going to be about 2.4 to 2.6 million.
Wow.
Site acquired for 325k.
Wow.
So 15% of GDV, I know I'm in for a winner.
Are you serious? So how much are you going to make on the uplift after structural costs and
Probably,
everything else?
so 2.4 to 2.8, site acquired for 325k with no overages, nothing.
Wow.
And we think the build cost to be 900,000, so possibly a million, 1.3. But I don't sell, so I'll refinance and keep.
So she's actually going to pull out all your money and some.
And 500,000 if it works.
This is unbelievable. She's making it sound easy. Believe me, I see loads of these deals every day because we have to analyse them. This is not easy. This is someone who knows what they're doing and they've been very meticulous in their journey.
So running parallel to that deal, because I like to do multiple deals because you never know where they're going to go. And we've got another one where I bought some offices which have surplus rear parts. That you'll see a general theme here. And I went in for planning to turn the rear into 3 C1 flats, which was refused. So going back to the nightclub, I thought that would be tough. And the office would be simple, and the office was complicated and was refused, and the nightclub was simple, so you can you never can tell. So that one, that was refused in December because we hadn't marketed for 12 months. What I found strange though was we were retaining the offices at the front and we were turning the rear into the C1 flats, and we had no issues part my way, they were fine. But they, if I actually left the building, I could have done an permitted development. So I'm going to appeal that one because I just didn't make sense to me, and so I'm going to go ahead and appeal it.
Are they going to be long-term let, the flats, or are you going
No,
to do service accommodation?
So C1 is nightly, so
Right,
it's
service
it's
accommodation.
nightly accommodation.
And do you know what's going to happen there? A bit of value here. It's capital allowance is going to be done on the change if you haven't claimed them before. That's huge, and that can be then offset with the revenue depending how you structured it.
We'll have to get planning. All starts with that.
Yeah, it does.
So that one was refused. So I also had a refusal in December because it's never this perfect. You've got to duck and dive a lot as a property investor, which was I bought a commercial building 3 years ago, 2 shops, 2 flats with a car park. It cost 610, which was the asset value, car park free, and gone in for planning for 4 flats. So the GEV on that would have been about 800 to, well, it depends, 200 to 300,000 a flat. Site value 0, my favourite number. So return on cost on that sort of deal is 65%. So I do often say that yellow cars, as a property investor, when you think, right, I want a yellow car, all you see is yellow cars. I trade myself, site value 0, right, and I go and try and find units with site value 0.
Biggest question, how do you source your deals? What is your tip to the audience? Because I'm a property investor as well as running an accountancy tax pricing. One of the biggest challenges I see and other property investors, developers see, is sourcing the deals.
I mean, I've been doing this 25 years, but one thing I would say is I pay market price. That might sound like a shocker, but in fact, a lot of the time people are trained to go and find those BNV deals. They're all fishing here, and then I go and say, well, that's actually worth what they're asking. I'll just pay them what they're asking. But wait a minute, there's this site in the car park that's absolutely free, and so everybody else is fishing here and missing the fish that are here. That's the only explanation I can have, because there's an abundance of this style of deal. So
we definitely need to do our podcast on that, because what she's just given is a huge tip, because she's trained, she understands it, she's going to be analysing shed loads of deals today and does them every day for many years. She can see this. She's, as she said, trained to see yellow cars. I love that.
Yeah, so I bought a 7 flats in commercial at auction in last August, which I'm currently converting, and I'm going to be using. We obviously understand the Ukrainian system, so the whole building is going to go to Ukrainian follow-on accommodation via the local housing office. We're just kidding. That one was a little bit sticky, that deal. I bought that off for a C via auction as well.
On that point, on auctions, because a lot of people find those tricky, especially those auctioneers and that 30-day pressure point. Did you have a look at the CPSE and all that? Do you have a chance? Because a lot of auctioneers duck and dive on that one, don't
Yeah, I always review the CPCs
Love
with a what do you call it, one wandering eye, because they're never as thorough as I'd like them. And a lot of the time they say buy to do their own assessment or evaluation. But I always want to go to, is it like 35.35, you know, capital allowances.
Capital allowance, VAT, opted to tax, SDLT, few reliefs there. Huge amount of money, can't it?
And I tend to, so sometimes it's not always 30 days, sometimes you get a 6-week completion. And then also, not that I've ever had to do this, if you get served notice, you get an additional 2 weeks. So really sometimes, not that you want to count on that, but you can...
when you say served notice?
So if you've got a 30-day deadline and you're unable to complete on that 30th day, they don't just pull the deal on you, they'll have to serve you a notice to complete, which will give you a minor window at the back end of that. Not that I've ever had to use that, but it's always in the back pocket when things, you know, get tricky.
And then you still have time to complete within the 2 weeks notice.
Normally, I mean, you've always got to have your finance in place anyway when you go into auction. And it's too difficult to use high street lenders at the moment. You've really got to close for cash or private bridge or something like that. So
when you refinance after development, right, what number are you looking at? Are you looking at, people say 70, but a lot of people now are down to about 60 because of finance costs increasing, or 65, or even lower. What's your...
I mean, every deal's different. If it's residential, 75% if I can push it. If it's commercial, I always like to be low loan to value on commercial, because if it goes empty, it takes a lot longer to, and the rates on commercial are, you know, marginally 1.5% to 2% higher than residential rates. So, so 65% for commercial and 75%, 70-75% for residential, because I operate through a limited company too, so I'm consigned to those sorts of rates. Shall I tell you about one other deal that I did?
Yeah, I love it. Listen, this is going to be huge value. And do you know what? We are really humbled and lucky because she is very successful. And this insight people pay a lot of money for, and we're providing free. And I hope you're enjoying it. Make sure you like and comment. Please carry on.
So I bought another property 2 years ago at auction, and it was in the pandemic. Couldn't even see it. The agent would let me through, so I was buying. It was in my patch, so I did understand.
What's your patch, if you don't mind me asking?
It's in Cambridgeshire.
Cambridgeshire.
Yeah. So paid 206,000. So one of my favourite tips when I'm buying at auction is to pay less than construction value. So I'm getting into the plan. Yeah, I like to pay less than construction value. So this was 206,000 for a 2,000 square foot property, £100 a square foot. You couldn't build for that. And it had a big car park in the rear. It used to be a solicitor's with a Resi Upper. Resi Upper was rented for £500, should have been more like $750. It was significantly under let. And luckily they decided to move out before we completed, so we ended up with an empty property. And we had permitted development on the solicitors below, so we converted that into a flat also. And we got planning on the rear of the property for 2 more flats. So that GDV was, well, the GDV is about 300, but the land with planning was valued at 120,000. And we paid my favourite number for the site, 0. And I paid about 4K in...
Expand when you say 0 for the site, you're talking about the car park?
Yeah, because I paid asset value for the front, it was actually quite cheap for the front, and the overlooked car park was overlooked by the property and also by the other investors, was just sitting there right for the plucking. Just took me 8 weeks to get planning for
for new builds?
For 2 flats,
Wow.
So hopefully we'll be selling that, and I spent 30,000 on the offices to turn that into a flat, because I've got guys that work for me, so it was surprisingly affordable. They already had a kitchen and a bathroom actually in the offices, and I got that revalued at 380,000.
Right.
So I got all my money back out plus about £70,000, not bad for 6 months' work.
Wow.
And then I'll sell the green now for another 120. So I'll make, you know, 190,000.
You're going to sell it. Why are you going to sell where you keep hold of the rest?
A bit of liquidity, because I've got other GDV deals that are much higher, and it's residential, and I'm moving away from holding residential stock, because I'm primarily a commercial investor now. And I also like to do multi-door. I don't want to own one door, I want to own multiple doors, because I just find the returns are... So I'm big on net yield, so for every £1 million, you know, what's my net yield? And I'm just finding that residential net yields are really,
They're really low.
yeah, they're really low. And
The return on investment, isn't it? And that's what people don't realise with property. It's not necessarily the gross what you're getting, it's after all your costs, what's the return on investment, your cash left in, the money cash flow that you get in.
well, a lot of the time I don't want any cash left in, so return on investment's infinite.
Right.
So I
Even
tend to use net yields on asset base.
Got it.
So, which I'm finding for residential is 0.8 to 1.2, but commercial it's 4 or 5%, so it's significantly higher.
And if you
Yeah.
pair that with your SaaS, especially when you're keeping commercial and you set up a lease, and especially a group structure, you can lease and sell it and then split it up.
Well, that's
So-
your
Yeah, so that makes a huge difference because then you're taking out
Yeah.
tax. So you now get even compounding or gross nearly because commercial, as we know, is pretty much the gross is the net. If you do it properly, you've got a good FRO at least. This is exciting stuff.
Yeah, keeping busy, so
Listen, thank you, Fiona.
No
I'm sure we're going to be touching base with you today. We've got a lot of fun to do. Big thumbs up. Thank you so much,
Thank
Fiona. I
you.
really appreciate that. And they're going to love it. Perfect.